look at it.
Okay, let Ashok Gulati respond to this, and I'll take a moment to explain to our viewers the premise of the argument. Let's say that the MSP is set at 100 rupees. A certain part of the produce will get sold at 100. Some of it will not sell because the market thinks the price is only 80. So Harish Damodaran is arguing that the government will not need to pay 100. It will only need to pay the difference between 100 and 80 because 80 is where the market consumes and picks up whatever the farmer has to offer. So the government only then needs to spend 20, which may be more palatable than the government having to spend 100. He argues that this may be a potential solution. Ashok Gulati, do you concur?
Conceptually, this scheme of price deficiency payment has been tried in a number of countries. Even in India, we tried, and Ramesh knows that very well, in Madhya Pradesh, in one season, and we gave it up after that. Reason, to the best of my understanding, our traders are much smarter. If the market was clearing at 80, and if they know that the government is going to give the difference between MSP and market price, that 20, instead of 80, the price will drop to 60 and 70. So because they say, oh, government will give you all the deficiency, so I'm ready to give you a receipt at 60. So they will play the game much better than the government can handle, and the fisc will blow out immediately on that. So we have to find a comparative price which cannot be tinkered by these traders.
It's fascinating that you say this, because the first time Harish Damodaran mentioned this to me, instinctively I told him exactly the same thing. That the traders, like they did during demonetization, will find a way of gaming the system, that they will make it seem as if the price is much lower than the actual price, so that they can actually get more out of the government. They could also potentially do a game with the farmers where they say, okay, we'll pay you this much, you show this much, whatever is left, you take some part of it, I take some part. So there's so many ways, and we've already seen this Indian jugaad during demonetization. So it's not, I'm not being disrespectful to anyone here, but Harish Damodaran, that is just the reality of how Indian trade happens. They'll find a way of gaming the system and just queuing the proposal that you've just presented. Respond to Ashok Gulati, Harish Damodaran.
See, it's like this. You can have a combination of both procurement and price deficiency. Like for example, say, let us assume, say, the minimum support price of, say, bajra is, say, 2,200. Okay, and the ruling market price is, say, 2,100. So the government can procure a little, and automatically the prices will go above the MSP. But yes, if the price is say 1,600 or something, then you need to pay the price deficiency. But I'm not convinced that it's so easy to rig the whole market. Okay, we have the entire country which is a market, right? I mean, soya bean is there, and ultimately even a trader has to buy, has to stock up, So it's not as easy that, I can just push down the prices. So, and I don't agree that the Bhavantar was a failure. I mean, just with a single season, how can you come out with a conclusion? It's like, for example, GST, look, everybody knows that the GST wasn't, perfect when it started off, So which is why I'm saying, let's approach this with an open mind,
Ashok Gulati, respond to that, because GST had initial problems doesn't mean you finish off GST, you stay invested in, you try and tweak and fix the system.
I wish it can be fixed like that, but I believe more in the smartness of the traders than the administration and governance of the government. And I'm sure traders will make the best of it. But Harish said something interesting, and that's where I think I want to put my little weight there. And he said, the government, where the prices go down and a bit of procurement government can do and try to push the market prices a little bit up. That's the idea of a price stabilization fund, that you have 20,000, 25,000 crores to do these operations, and start with the Bihar. Eastern India is all ready for it. This is what we should be doing to do justice.
No, but the problem with the price stabilization funds are, whenever they've been used, especially recently, they've always largely been used to benefit the consumer. So if, for example, the price has gone up too much, say, of an onion or whatever commodity you want to take, it is used to try and bring the price down for the consumer rather than to help the farmer when the price crashes. And the price crashes, that time this intervention doesn't seem to be happening. Ashok Gulati.
This is the fundamental problem of Indian policy making, that all these years we have favored the consumers more than the producers on that front. I'll give you a little example. Give me half a minute on that. In the budget of 47 lakh crores, food subsidy is 2,12,000 crores, fertilizer subsidy is 1,88,000 crores, which lower cost leads to lower MSP and therefore pass on to the consumers. Then there is PM Kisan, and then there is insurance subsidy and Manrega and all this. This is 5.5 lakh crores out of a budget of 47 lakh crores. Now, 80% of this is actually tilted towards the consumers rather than towards the producers. Now, if you start rationalizing that, and the first question I will ask is, if you say poverty is 11% in the country, then why are you giving free food to 800 million plus people, 60% of the population? Can't they earn their own food? And even if you give free food to 11% but charge half the MSP price to others, you can easily save 60-70,000 crores. And that you put in agriculture. Agriculture will start changing and price stabilization.
Let R.S. Paroda respond to this important argument that most of the government subsidies or benefits or even the price stabilization fund kicks in when prices of a commodity like onion go up, or whichever commodity, tomato, onion, pick anything. That's when the government comes into panic, says, oh my God, consumers are going to have to spend so much, let's try and artificially deflate the price. But the same level of concern doesn't seem to kick in when the price of a commodity crashes. That's when the farmer is left to fend for himself. And that, even Ashok Gulati argues, is a very unfair way of looking at this equation between those who produce and those who consume.
Well, I think let me start with your first four questions. The answer is already very clear that there is a reason which is a genuine for the protest. The awareness for the demand is also there among majority of the people, and MSP should be legalized. I don't know whether it should be legalized, but MSP is there and has stabilized our markets and production system for last more than 50 years. It is not today's demand. It started in 65. We have come a long way. We have a system where you have cost and price commission. We would like to see that farmer gets minimum at least what he is spending. And what happened recently, you talked about onion. The farmers were getting only 8 to 10 rupees and their cost of production is 30 rupees. Now in that situation, the schemes which have come up later, after of course the MSP, is of this ASHA, which is PM ASHA scheme, under which you have the possibility of, price support scheme and the price deficiency payment scheme. Now, price deficiency payment scheme has been allowed in oilseed, and the price support scheme is allowed only for pulses. And you can choose only one. So every state has to decide what they want to do. But there are provisions now, and when we look at the reason why farmers are wanting it, let's not try to just blame Punjab farmers. As it was mentioned, they had helped us and they are the one who gave us green revolution.
So let Ashok Gulati respond to this, that, while it's the Punjab farmers who are protesting, and the government says, why only Punjab farmers protesting? The farming community responds to say that they represent or they espouse the concerns of farmers in other states as well. But farmers in Bihar, West Bengal, Assam are so badly off that they don't have the wherewithal, the means to leave Assam or to leave West Bengal, to leave Bihar and to come all the way to Delhi. It's easier to come from Punjab, and you have some ability to be able to do so, organize yourself, which is why the Punjab farmers are coming. But these are problems and concerns of farmers pan-India.
Well, I wish that is the case, and our concern also is pan-India farmers. But we are talking of a situation, increasing farmers' income is overdue. So as I said, there are different ways to do it. Right now, we are talking about prices. And prices, Dr. Paroda said the cost of onion is 30 rupees a kg. I'm not sure about that, but if that is the case, and 50% margin on that, that means 45 rupees should be the minimum price for the farmer. Normally, the consumer price is 3 times more than what the farmer gets. So by the time it comes to Delhi, it should be 125 rupees a kg. Any government can survive with onion prices of 125 rupees a kg? Tell me that. So there is an issue of increasing income, which is, we are all working for that. All the panelists have devoted their whole lifetime for the betterment of agriculture, including me. I think we have to find proper instruments which can do the job with prudence. Little money, big bang for the buck. And on price assurance or price stability, one, you open up the gates. Why have you put export controls? Why are you putting stocking limits on the private trade? Why are you unloading wheat and rice at below the economic cost to suppress the market prices? So you have distorted the market itself. You have not allowed the markets to function. So first thing is remove all this. Essential Commodities Act was basically that you cannot impose stocking limits at the drop of a hat.
No, but then the middle class will start protesting. Viewers of India Today will go crazy. They'll say the government is not being able to keep food prices down, and there'll be a rebellion on the streets. And right now it looks all peaceful and good for the government. There'll be chaos if onion is at 150 rupees a kilo.
Rahul, that's why I'm saying I have great sympathy with the policymaker who has to tread on a very tight rope, walk, because they have to calibrate the interests of the farmers as well as the consumers. And unfortunately, 70%, 80% of the time they tilt towards consumers. That's the consumer bias in the system.
Okay, so I have two more questions.
Elections are coming. Let me just have it.
Yes.
Elections were coming. They know the largest number of people who are going to vote are consumers. So suppress the prices. But suppressing the prices has led to now this type of farmer unrest.
Okay, I have two more questions. I want to take them on our screen right now. Question number one. Should farmers be allowed to protest in Delhi? 71% of land-owning farmers say yes, farmers should be allowed to protest in the capital. 72% of laborers say they should be allowed to protest in the capital. 53% of non-farmers also say they should be allowed to protest in Delhi. I mean, if they want to protest, should they be allowed? This is what the C voter data has found. Is the use of force against protesters justified? 29% of non-farmers say yes. 23% of landless laborers say yes. 21% of landowning farmers say yes, but 62% of landowning farmers say no. 58% of laborers say no, and 52% of even the non-farming community says no. And I think that is also the reality, that you don't want force to be used against the Andata. You can't say Andata, and then start using force, which is also why the government is continuing to talk to the farmers, try and find some solution, doesn't want to get into a confrontation, and most definitely not a violent confrontation with the protesters. So I want to quickly conclude, and I want to ask you first, and I want to start by putting this question to Harish Damodaran of what happens to the protests from here. Do these continue? Do these potentially escalate? Do they scale down? What's your sense?
Rahul, I don't know about how the current protests are, but I can tell you that the MSP as a legal right, or let us say something kind of a right to a fair price, is going to have traction, okay? And it is going to come back in some way or the other, okay? This is number one, okay? Number two, see, India has too many mouths to feed, okay? And if farmers decide that, it's not worth farming, okay, we are going to come to it's going to be a very serious problem, okay? We need to somehow assure either income to the farmer or price to the farmer. Okay, we cannot run away from this because both these things, and number three, the risks to production are increasing. I mean, whether it is because of pests and diseases, whether it is because of abiotic stresses, whether it is because of unseasonal rains. So if the farmer doesn't have a basic price assurance, it's very unlikely that they are going to remain in this business, and I would be very worried.
But it's not a bad idea for some of the farmers to leave farming and to do other things. Might not be an illogical thing. You want people in farming, but you don't want the current number of people. They have to look outside farming. Too many people being in farming is also part of the problem.
So which is why I'm saying we need to look at this MSP thing, dispassionately, eschewing ideological positions, and can we work on this thing? I believe that it is possible,
Okay, so we had a fascinating conversation. I'm completely out of time, but I want to thank our guests for joining us because in all of what I've heard, read and seen so far, we haven't had as wide-ranging a conversation from a market perspective, an economic perspective, an ideological perspective on the problems and potential solutions to the challenges of the demand for a legalized minimum support price. So thank you to all our guests for joining us and sharing your wide-ranging perspectives in the spirit of argument and debate. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange. What do farmers, farm laborers and non-farmers think of the demands being raised by the protesting farmers? That's my top focus on this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange.
Farmer Flashpoint 2.0 flares up. Should centre bring MSP law? Are farmers' demands justified? Will Farmster 2.0 impact 2024 polls? The biggest sentiment tracker, Political Stock Exchange. Top focus on Newstrack.
So what's the mood amongst farmers, farm laborers and the general population on the questions being posed by the protesting farmers in Punjab? And what do really sharp agricultural economists and experts on Indian agriculture make of these demands, and what's the way forward? To talk about this, I'm joined in the special edition of the Political Stock Exchange by the sharpest possible collection of minds on Indian agriculture. I want to welcome first Professor Ashok Gulati, Distinguished Professor in Agriculture at the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, or ICRIER. With us also on this broadcast is Professor Ramesh Chand, member of the Niti Aayog and a top expert on agriculture. We have R.S. Paroda, who's been former Director General of the ICAR. He's been chairperson of the Haryana Farmers Commission. We have Harish Damodaran, Rural Affairs and Agriculture Editor at the Indian Express. We have Devendra Sharma, leading food and trade policy analyst, author of GATT and India, the Politics of Agriculture. Last but not least, I have Yashwant Deshmukh, cephalogist, founder, director of Sea Voter. They're the polling agency that has compiled these PSE tracker numbers. So I want to start by taking you through the responses from the 2,700 people who were sampled for this poll. And let's then get into what the experts think and get a sense of what farmers, farm laborers and the general population is thinking. So question number one on your screen right now. What's the reason for this protest by the farmers? 54% of land-owning farmers say these are genuine grievances. 49% of laborers say that these are genuine grievances. Only 44% of the other population says these are genuine grievances. Naturally, those who own land feeling more strongly that these are genuine grievances. Those who are far from agriculture not feeling as strongly. Provocation by the opposition, only 19% of landowning farmers think this is a provocation by the opposition. 36% of others, non-farmers, say this is a provocation by the opposition. Is this just to do with government attitude? 19% of landowning farmers are saying this is the attitude of the government, 14% of others. Obviously, as you'll see in all the responses, I want to come to the second question. Are you aware of the demands of the farmers? The more closely associated you are with farming, the more strongly you feel. The further away you are, you don't care as much, really. And that's quite obvious as well. 71% of landowning farmers say that they are aware of the demands of the farmers. This is not just in Punjab. This is in Hindi heartland states and across the population. So not just amongst Punjab farmers. 65% of landless labourers who were surveyed say they are aware of the demands of the farmers. 68% of others. Even in the general population, there seems to be high awareness about the demands being made by the farmers. Are the demands of the farmers justified? Interestingly, 8 out of 10 farm owners say the demands are justified, not just in Punjab, in the other heartland states as well. 70% of landless labourers say the demands are justified. 61% of others, and that's interesting as well, that 6 out of 10 non-farmers also think the demands of the farmers are justified. Let's come to the next question. Should the government make minimum support price a legal right? 83% of land-owning farmers say yes, it should be a legal right. 77% of landless labourers say it should be a legal right. 64% of the others as well think it should be a legal right. Let's come to the next question. Inconvenience caused by farmers, could it turn public opinion against them? 34% of landowning farmers fear that because of the inconvenience to the public, general people could turn against the farmers. 43% of the others feel that that could happen. So obviously those who are non-farmers feeling that this inconvenience is a big irritation. Let's come to the next question. Who has been more sympathetic in handling farmer issues? 28% say the UPA was more sympathetic. 21% say it's the NDA. This is amongst landowning farmers. Amongst landless labourers, 28% say it was the UPA, 19% say it's the NDA. Amongst the others, interestingly, more people think the UPA was less friendly. 29% are saying it's the NDA which was more friendly. So 29% saying NDA was more friendly on the issue of farmers, more sympathetic, whereas landowning farmers feel that the UPA was more sympathetic. So on this, I want to go across now to our guests. I want to start by asking Professor Gulati first. Professor Ashok Gulati, not just amongst those directly associated with farming, but even amongst members of other communities, there seems to be a high level of support for the demands of the farmers. People may not understand the nuance like you've been explaining on our channel, not understand the ramifications on the fiscal health of the economy, but broadly they seem to have, from what I can gather from the data, a lot of sympathy towards the demands being made by the Indian farmers. What do you make of the responses I've shown so far?
As sympathy is concerned, that's very natural. Not only with the farmers and laborers, but all the people have sympathy. We have spent our whole life for farming, right? So as far as sympathy, emotions are concerned, and they haven't got a very good deal, whether it was the Modi government or the Manmohan government, the rate of agriculture growth has been 3.5% for 20 years. Same exactly between the two governments, okay? Now, how far it can go? At a state level, some states can do much better, but others are doing much worse. Punjab is not a great example today anymore. It was during the Green Revolution days. They are stuck at a very different level of farming, and therefore they are looking and knocking the doors for higher and higher income. So that's very natural, and I can understand this. But what is the implication of implementing and making it legal? I don't think a general public can understand. And that is where rationality needs to come besides compassion and sympathy and emotions. You know, if rationality is not there and you decide this, to my understanding, it's a simple question. If the production is 100 and the demand is only 70, And if nobody is allowed to buy at below that minimum support price, which itself will be 25 to 30% higher, then where will that production go? The strong, bigger farmers can go to the court and ask, oh, everything government should procure. And Bihar farmers and the smallholders of Eastern India will never knock those doors. So they'll be worst hit, in fact. And that is what is happening even in the current MSP system. Where is the procurement in Bihar and Assam and West Bengal and Eastern UP? So they are not getting a deal which the farmers of Punjab and Haryana are getting a deal. They are at least 15 to 20% below what the Punjab and Haryana.
Devendra Sharma, I want you to respond to these very important comments made by Professor Ashok Gulati, who in his wisdom and experience argues that if the demand of the farmers was accepted, this would actually be counterproductive for poorer farmers, because if you're setting the MSP higher than the market rate, nobody will come forward. Right now, at whatever rate, the rate crashes, but simple economics dictates that whatever rate it may be, most of the produce gets picked up at the mandi. If you keep rates artificially high, the produce will not get touched, and the other farmers who currently make some money will make no money at all. Net, the Indian farmer will be worse off. He's made those comments. Those comments have been viraling across social the last couple of days. You have an alternate point of view. Explain that to our viewers. Why do you think farmers will be better off if a minimum support price is made legally mandatory? Devendra Sharma.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy the questionnaire that you showed to all of us and the response from, as you said, from not only from Punjab, from the heartland and from the rest of the country, I think is overwhelming in favor of MSP being legalized. Let me make it very clear that Indian farmer is at the bottom of the pyramid, and we need to understand the reason for that is that the farmer has been left by and large to the market forces. Market forces have failed everywhere in the world to provide farmers with a higher income. Even now, when Europe's witnessed protest by farmers, we have seen the French farmers, when they met the President Macron recently or 2 days back, they have also put up a note to the President saying what the farmers need is a assured price for their produce, and in fact they are suggesting it should be, everyone should be banned from purchasing below that price, and I think that is what Indian farmers are also asking. If you look at America agriculture is also in distress, European agriculture is in distress, Indian farmers are in distress, even Philippine farmers are in distress. The point is it runs across the world, and farmers are suffering because of markets. If markets were so wonderful, I don't understand why the OECD countries should be providing more than $260 billion as subsidy support every year. And having said that, I think it is very clear that in India, the average income of a farming family, according to the Economic Survey 2016, was 20,000 rupees in 17 states of India, which means half the country. The farmers were living under or living in.
But so far, Devendra Sharma, I've heard from you a rhetorical response. No, here my question, sir. Professor Ashok Gulati has given you a very specific scenario of what may happen if a minimum support price is legally mandated. I want you to use the wealth of knowledge and experience. You have to try and counter that on facts, not on rhetoric. He's saying you set the minimum support price artificially high.
Sorry.
And you don't allow, and people who don't want to pay that price will not pay, and therefore a large part of the produce will go unpurchased. Nobody will be willing to come forward to buy it. Farmers will therefore be worse off rather than better off. That is his specific example. Try and counter that. Devendra Sharma.
Rahul, I am aware of what the question is, and I also see the point that you are making. What I said was to first give a kind of impression for the global agriculture, and I think we need to understand it is not rhetoric. It is something that people need to understand. B, let me be very clear. Why farmers should not be getting an MSP, a legal MSP? I think a lot of people are saying that, and we know how the government is projecting or how the media is getting those notes which are unsigned every day, tossing various figures that this will be the burden on the country and so on and so forth. I think the best way to pull farmers out of agriculture crisis is to make MSP a legal mechanism. Farmers everywhere in the country should get that price. Now, your question, somebody will buy, somebody will not. I think this can all be sorted out. It is not a difficult proposition for the country. But what we need primarily is to see that, nobody is, or let's say the country, nobody is trading below that price. That is what the farmers are demanding.
So, but that
which
goes
is
against the
very
basic
right.
principles of
after all,
economics.
we give the
You
example
cannot
of Bihar
dictate
farmers.
a minimum price in a free market. Let's assume you set the price at 100. A certain amount of the produce will get picked up by the traders. The rest they will not touch. So that part of the produce will then go unpicked up from the farm fields and will lie, and the farmer will get no money. That's the economic argument. You can't artificially set a price higher than what the market is willing to pay for it. That's economics 101.
I'm saying economics 101 is the problem here. We haven't got out of economics 101. And why I'm saying this is because we need to understand if free markets have failed everywhere in the world, please tell me how will they do justice to Indian farmers? Is a question
Sir, this
that
is
I'm
not
asking.
free markets. You've
Let's be
set
very
the
clear.
price
When
artificially
you
high.
make it
Sir,
obligatory-
Professor Ashok Gulati is taking your argument.
No,
He's
I'm
setting
saying
the
if
price
it-
artificially high. He's telling you what will happen later.
Sorry,
A lot of
you
the
are
produce
not
will
getting
not
my-
get picked up. It will just lie. It will rot in the fields.
Rahul, please let me explain. Why are you rushing through? If I'm saying that when you said free market time, that is what I'm saying. Free markets have failed everywhere in the world. Listen to me. And then I'm trying to say that, if you make it obligatory for everyone to see that, no trading takes below that price, I don't think there is a question coming up that, there will be too much at one time and there will be food to rot and so on and so forth. I think let's be very clear. Even today, food is being thrown on the streets. We know that with all these markets operating, food is being thrown on the streets. We need a kind of a mechanism where, farmers do not lose out.